So let's go ahead and start with everybody's introduction. We'll just go down the list. So, Hylian Luke, you are first.
All right. My name is Hylian Luke, and probably just like everybody in this podcast, I do Zelda videos. I make like Zelda theories, and I make like audio, visual, type of Zelda videos, and every once in a while I'll do a Let's Play. And I think that's about it. I just make Zelda videos.
Okay. And next up is Oni Black Mage.
Hi, I'm Nick, aka Oni Black Mage. I'm a content creator on YouTube who mainly makes story summary videos on various games, usually RPGs, in a series called Recapitation. Legend of Zelda, like all of you, is my favorite series, so I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. I'm Pixel Fusion Productions, or Cornelius Belmont if you'd prefer, and I am currently focused entirely on Zelda videos. Super Zelda Girl.
Hi, I'm Super Zelda Girl, and surprise, surprise, I like Zelda. I make theory videos, discussion videos, let's plays, pretty much anything I can put Zelda related into it.
Nice. Hey, my name is the Bread Pirate. I like to think of myself as a Zelda historian, although recently I've become more of a fun facts and trivia Breath of the Wild YouTuber. Regardless, I love covering things on the Legend of Zelda that people don't usually know about. I like to cover the obscured and the abnormal.
Hello, my name is Tyler Townsend. I make Zelda content as well, from theories to reactions, discussions, like strange topics that you never would have thought of. And I'm also a member of the Sheikah Squad.
Very cool. Zeldom.
Hi, I'm Zeldom. I am mainly a Zelda theorist, but recently some of my other videos have been like top 10 lists and other just sorts of analysis have become some of my more popular videos as of recently. I guess lately my biggest series is analyzing Zelda shipping in each game. That's something I never thought would grow my channel, but I tried it and people love it, so you know what?
Ah, yes, the loves of Hyrule.
The loves of Hyrule. Yep, it's doing pretty well for me, so keeping it up. But yeah, theories is what I started off trying to do, and I still do theories occasionally, but no, not occasionally. It's still my main focus, but you know, it's not every single video is a theory. I try to stick with also doing mostly lore analysis as well.
Yeah, I've been touching on Nintendo criticism alongside theory. Anyhow, so moving along, let's move to the first question. What is your favorite part of the new trailer? We'll just go down the list again. So, Hylian Luke, you start off.
Okay. I would probably have to say that my favorite part of the trailer would probably have to be the part where Link went through that island to get to the top of it. That like made me go, "What the heck?" I was like freaking out. I was like, "How did he do that?" And then just like that whole big overview of the overworld. It was just so beautiful.
Yeah, that phasing power is going to really be interesting.
That's for sure. And I mentioned it in my analysis video, but I thought I had like this little connection that like it's not related at all. It's just like a similarity I noticed between these two games. Kind of like the beams that Link goes through, mixed with like the portal like thing he does. It reminded me of like the tractor beam things in Portal 2. If any of you ever played that game, it's
Of course.
It's a classic.
Yeah,
Love that game.
Yeah, the game is incredible. But yeah, I noticed like a similarity between that with like the little beams just looked the same to me, but you know what I mean.
Well, it's no secret that the team has been pulling inspiration from other sources, notably Princess Mononoke. I think Super Zelda Girl would agree with.
Yes. Definitely.
There's also rumors that they've been pulling inspiration from games like Dead Red Dead. Red Dead Redemption. I
Red
know
Dead,
words.
yeah.
I know words.
Red
I know
Red
words.
Redemption.
Yeah, and Skyrim. Skyrim are the two games I know
Those-
that they have been playing recently and wanted to take inspiration from.
The Red Dead games are really good as well. If you guys have never
Yes.
played those, give them a shot. They're
Can
awesome.
vouch.
How about you, Oni Black Mage? What's your favorite part to the new trailer?
So for me, what I'm most excited about is actually I love the new toga look for Link for two reasons. First, I don't think anyone really expected in the first game to have so and functional clothing options for Link, and just seeing that there's new stuff, just honestly makes me excited. That we're gonna have a lot more options. Such an unexpectedly surprise that I really look forward to seeing what else they have design wise. Because you can always save the world, but can you look good doing it? That's the other challenge. Otherwise, the toga is also related to some perhaps new culture we're not exposed to. Probably Zonai is the popular one, but maybe there's some other Skyfolk we haven't met yet. Maybe we'll see Skyloft descendants. Who knows? It opens up a whole can of possibilities.
To me, it looked very Greek inspired. So,
I thought it was Greek. Yeah.
Very Mediterranean.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting note. I agree.
makes me wonder if the creators of the game played Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Oh,
I have too many
That's a
hours
good-
on that game.
That explains
good
why it's been 2
thought,
years
though.
since the last trailer.
I think there could be Greek influence because there looked like there was some temple-y things in the background. So
Yeah.
maybe.
That's fair enough. The temples kind of could give me that vibe too, kind of like Mount Olympus or the gods in the sky kind of thing.
The design of them especially kind of gave me that feel.
I'm especially curious about that tower that we see in one of the islands in the sky.
Yeah,
Yep.
the big one. I thought it looked a bit like Ganon's tower from the Wind Waker, but its top is a bit different.
I was actually thinking more. Well, I guess this would kind of go into my my favorite pet theory, but I don't want to get ahead of myself there.
Yeah, we'll get to that. All right, so for me, my favorite part of it is actually the close-up on the Zonai arm on Link's body. I think it just looks fantastic, especially with the lighting in the scene. We've all been curious about it. I'm really curious if it's going to just be added to his arm or outright replace his arm.
It just cut off Link's
Yeah.
Mhm. But we'll touch on theories a little bit more.
arm.
But I just think it looks really beautiful.
It looks. I love the color they picked. It's like it's not just like green, like the color that he's had in his tunic. It's like this kind of green, almost teal. It's very light, and I like the color they picked for it.
Is it
It's like a mint
aquamarine
green.
or teal?
So
It's a
teal.
weird color.
it's a bit more on a green spectrum, a little bit more green of teal. But
Mm.
yeah, because teal is sort of like 2 parts green, 1 part blue. So this is just a little bit more green than that.
I think it's telemagenta. I'm gonna.
Did you have that ready?
Oh no, never mind. Nope, I changed my mind. Aquamarine. Yes, no, that's the one I think. Telemagenta is a purple color. I'm getting those two confused. Yes, I do have this ready. Of course, I have this ready.
You just
Wow.
post a picture of just color. Did you have this prepared?
Well, I did make an entire video about what your favorite color, what color is your favorite Zelda game, something like that.
You did, I remember that now.
Yeah, I
have
remember
had to
that.
study quite a few colors.
Oh god. Just like how you post the actual freaking color.
So how about you, Super Zelda Girl? What's your favorite part of the trailer?
It's hard to pick because obviously I love all of the trailer. Each bit of it is so special and like so exciting in its own bit.
Oh, you must have loved the
that
part
was
where
funny.
Zelda fell.
Well, that made me sad because now I'm like Zelda's probably not going to be playable. But I think my favorite bit, just like the bit that got me the most like excited outside of like the sky thing, because obviously that's exciting by itself, would be the bit where Link is in like a cave and there's like this monster in the ceiling and he's using the fire
Right.
thing on his shield, because my head just went dungeon. Dungeon, mini boss, big dungeon, and I'm just like, please, that's all I want. I just want dungeons back with like big bosses and interesting enemies and all that stuff. So that really kind of gave me that vibe. It made me really excited seeing that.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
I guess that means it's my turn. Oh, or are we going to discuss that first?
we could talk about it a little bit. I was just gonna say I want dungeons to return real dungeons, not Divine Beast.
Me too. I was not that big of a fan of Divine Beasts. They were too easy and
No.
short.
I mean,
I
Yeah,
have
and there's not much
Reach!
exploration.
Yeah, there's like no the ice cave or something.
And there's
Ocarina
like
of
no
Time was
enemies
bigger
in
than
there.
that.
There's like no
What?
enemies in the Divine Beasts either. There's like the Calamity like Malice heads that come out,
an
but like
occasional guardian.
Yeah, there's no
Mhm.
mini bosses. The quote bosses were all very similar to each other.
They're
I
all
give them
glorified challenge rooms, yeah.
Yeah, I give them props with the idea of it, like having the dungeon itself, like the Divine Beast, the dungeon, like move as part of the puzzle. I do think that's really cool, but I think it's like it feels like a smaller part. Like if you combined all of those into one dungeon, it would be, I think, pretty cool. Like,
Oh,
Yeah,
it would
the-
easy be one of the best dungeons ever.
and
yeah,
that's
the
why I like
DLC was good.
that's why I like the DLC dungeon, because it has elements of all of them, and it just feels so much like an actual
Yeah.
proper dungeon.
Just
Well, yeah,
Um,
first of all, the DLC was a lot bigger than the Divine Beasts, and it was a lot more challenging too.
and it has the best boss in the game.
yeah, just imagine
Yeah.
if you had to combine all four of them together into a giant robot and
Mm.
had to control all of them. No, that's ridiculous.
That's what I've asked since I
Lord.
first saw it during the release trailers. Like, are we gonna see a Voltron move? This is gonna be awesome.
They just combine all of the Divine Beast into a freaking Gundam. Oh,
So
but
how
yeah,
about-
the dungeons in Breath of the Wild were kind of lackluster, in my opinion. So
Thankfully, we have a chance for redemption.
please.
My favorite part of the trailer originally, this is a kind of a two-part one. My favorite part originally probably was the part where I saw the Sky Islands. I got really excited when I saw those. I'm like, oh yes, new things to explore. But actually, the longer that I look at the trailer, the thing that excites me most now, or my favorite part, is where Link is gliding around the Stone Talus with bokoblins on him. And the reason that's gotten me excited recently is because some comments have pointed out on my older videos, hey, by the way, you accidentally predicted this. Because I was making a video about how I'd love to see enemies interact with each other more, and the interaction I gave as an example was bokoblins and Stone Taluses fighting each other or working together. And hey, I mean, I'll take that. I'll take that. That's a small victory.
did you
Someone at
notice?
Nintendo was stalking your channel.
Did you notice how the bokoblins put up a barrier, like a wooden barrier, around the Talus's weak point?
Yes, I see it. I
Yeah.
see it right here.
Yeah,
Hold up. Interesting.
They turned it into a moving fortress.
Yeah, it's interesting how they've evolved.
Totally didn't mention that in the recent video, how that could have happened.
So for me, it's going to be kind of a boring answer because it's the exact same as Bread's. It's literally both shots. I really like seeing like the like one-for-one comparison to Skyward Sword from where the trailer opens up and him falling from the sky to the Sky Islands, and the armor. It just looks amazing. It's really cool looking. But the bokoblins and the Stone Taluses working together just makes me think what other like enemy encampments and like what other like things we're going to see in the overworld from other enemies working together, and it just kind of makes you question what we know about Breath of the Wild in general. And I think it's just very exciting to see like what changes they could make to things that we think we know already.
You know what I thought of when I, like, after thinking about how the Talus and bokoblins are working together? Bokoblins ride horses. What if they start riding Lionels? And so you have
Oh,
to deal with the
no,
lion
man.
coming
Dear
up
Lord.
you. While,
I mean,
while,
why not?
I can't.
and then you have the bokoblins shooting arrows at you from the back of the
Oh
Lionel
my
while the Lionel's
God.
trying to hit you.
I
Please,
can't.
I want
It's
this.
over. I
That would
surrender.
be
I give up.
that would be the ultimate challenge. I feel like would be like
I
a
love it.
golden Lionel with like 2 golden moblins riding it, shooting arrows at you. Oh God.
Yes.
I'd just
I'm
say
just
give us a wider variety of enemies, please. Not just the bokoblins and everything from Breath of the Wild. We need to at least double the amount of enemies.
That reminds me of the. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just saying that there's a very, very small variety of enemies. You got Keys, Choo-Choos, bokoblins, Zolfos, Moblins.
I made a
Lionels.
video and I
That's it.
counted every type of enemy in Breath of the Wild without like variants, and I don't even know if it got to 20.
Yeah, I would think like 15 maybe.
Yeah.
If you include the bosses.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's
It
pretty
depends on whether
stale.
you combine AI or not, and if you include bosses or not.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that proves just how
Mhm.
how little enemies are in Breath of the Wild. The original Legend of Zelda has more variants, not counting different colors. It has more enemy types than Breath of the Wild. It has Wall Masters,
Actually,
it has Lionels, it has Moblins, it has Zelda or something.
whoa,
Something
whoa,
was
whoa,
in
whoa,
that.
whoa! But I gotta stop you there though, because consider in the original Legend of Zelda, a lot of enemies act the same with only slight differences. For
True.
instance, Octoroks and Lionels wander around, they shoot projectiles, and then they stop for a second. It's the
Yeah,
exact same
but
thing
I'm just
reskinned.
saying
Yeah.
in like the whole tech of them being different creatures. That's what I'm saying.
I suppose, yeah, that is fair enough. Aesthetically, they are different.
Phantom Hourglass has more as well, though, and Phantom Hourglass is a much smaller game.
So since
What
we're,
I would love to see from that, just to interject real quick, was that we have all these distinct regions in Hyrule, right? But it doesn't seem like there's like we don't see enemies that are like specific to those areas. Like
Thank
for
you.
like Farum Woods for an example, right? It's just like it's a
Lizalfos and Bokoblins.
yeah, it's like it's a jungly area. We should have like jungle themed enemies here, like it shouldn't have like, every
I would
area
love to
shouldn't
see a
necessarily
man-sized
Dualism.
rope stake come at you in the jungle. That would be exciting.
yeah, like that would be
Oh
amazing.
yes!
Like
Oh, that'd be good.
I want
They
to
should have
drop
had
bear.
Skulltulas. They should have had Deku
Yeah.
Bombers. They should have
Yeah,
replaced
exactly.
the Octoroks in that area with Deku Scrubs that should shoot at you. Because even if they act the same, I've said this all the time. Even if they act the same, you could just change like the design of the enemies. So take an Octorok, have the Octoroks in the water, and then in the forest, they work exactly the same as the Octoroks, but you just make them look like Deku Scrubs. It just adds in that bit more variety, even if they look exactly the same. I'm sorry, but I'm very passionate about my monsters.
Rightly so.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I personally was thinking it would have been insane if I forget the name of it, but the forest that has like the black curtain over it and you can't see anything.
Oh,
the
Typho.
typo?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes, those ruins. I made a video for like new enemies I would want to see in Breath of the Wild sequel. I was seeing how much of a horror show it would be if there were like Skulltulas in that forest that could like sneak
Yeah.
up on
The
you. And,
Redeads in there. That'd
yeah,
be
or like
terrifying.
I was thinking how terrifying it would be if they brought back like the way the Skulltulas used to act in like the beta for Twilight Princess, where they can just
Oh,
like web
yeah.
you up and like start eating you.
Ooh,
I mean,
that's
Yeah.
Bring in
like,
Lost
I
Woods
hated
too.
and loved that at the same time.
that's
I would
Tulas
hate,
in Twilight
especially
Princess and
like.
Skyward Sword are horrifying anyway because of how big
Mhm.
they are.
Mhm.
Like them just crawling towards you is just like, ugh.
Yeah, Skyward Sword, they're really big, but in Twilight Princess, their movement
fine.
is
They're
much more
fast as
anatomically
well as-
correct.
Oh
Mhm.
god, there's only like, I am pretty okay with spiders in video games and stuff, but Goma and the Skulltulas in Twilight Princess freaked me out just because of how they move. Ugh, don't like
I am
Yeah.
horribly arachnophobic, so yeah, it's like
it.
what's weird is I want those enemies back in Breath of the Wild, but like at the same time, I'm horribly terrified of them.
Me
I
too.
would
me
like
too.
another
Yeah,
I'm
Yeti
same.
arachnophobic as
I
well.
am. Yep.
Okay.
Make that 3. Especially since in Breath of the Wild, like that physics engine would make them so much more creepy the way they would
Yeah.
move and stuff.
They could
Oh,
climb on
jeez,
the
I don't even.
walls.
It
I
would
don't
be
even
such a cool
imagine.
idea for like if you're just running through the forest, right, and then you just happen to stumble into a spider web, and then like you have a certain amount of stamina, or like it takes a certain amount of stamina
Oh
to
my
actually
god,
break out of it.
Yes.
No, just stop there. That's terrible.
Or you
You've
fall
gone too
into a
far, too far.
spider nest.
Too far,
But
too far.
on the topic of like enemy variety, like the Gerudo Desert is just filled with the occasional. You've got the Molduga, which I do think is cool because it's the only like the
Desert
regional.
specific.
Yeah.
Just-
You could. That's
yeah.
like the only regional specific enemy. Apart from that, you've got like the Bokoblins, the occasional Octorok, and
Lizalfos
the
are quite
Zalfos.
prominent as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
There's-
they could have had pea hats like they did in Twilight Princess, even if they weren't actual enemies. They could have had levers. They could have had moldorms. They could have even had like the mini Stalfos, like the tiny ones that are in Twilight Princess.
Orders grounds.
They
Oh,
could have
Reed
done
would be so cool to bring back.
Reedheads crawling out of the sand like mummies.
Mhm.
Please, like,
That would be crazy.
I have so many. I love Breath of the Wild, but I have so many little problems with it that just make it fall like
Yeah.
lower on my list than I wanted it to.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's go back a little bit more on track. Zeldom, what was your favorite part of the trailer?
Zeldom to Ground Zero. I can't hear him. Can anybody else?
No.
I
Nope.
cannot hear him.
So you're talking to me?
Yeah.
There
So
we are.
Sorry.
it's all right.
I had to step away. I actually had my 2-year-old cousin out there screaming in my living room at the moment.
Oh,
So-
Praise Scott.
if you need
Yeah,
a moment, that's fine.
If she walks back here, I might have to mute myself for a second so I don't interrupt everything.
Okay. Well,
But
That's okay.
yeah, I'm really drawn between my favorite parts of the trailer because like, when I first saw the opening, not the opening, but once I saw Link skydiving, I was like, oh, Skyward Sword 2.0 because Skyward Sword is what made me love Zelda so much. And it's what I have the most nostalgia with. So when I saw him skydiving, I just got super excited because I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a lot of hopefully have some references to Skyward Sword there, but it's really hard to tell from the trailer. Other than that, but honestly, one of the things that excites me most, is actually Link fighting that worm. I don't even know what the enemy was. Kind of looks like a not a pea hat. What? A lever. Or lever, maybe a like. Whatever that worm is, where he's using the flamethrower with the dragon head.
To
So that
me-
makes me think we're gonna have more traditional bosses and possibly dungeons, because that looks like some kind of underground cavern.
Yeah.
That
So-
enemy made me think. That enemy made me think of the parasitic tentacles from Jabu Jabu's belly.
Yes, same.
I did too, and it's not. I don't think that's the only place we've seen like a parasite tentacle thing. But anyhow, yeah.
Yeah, it's. I'm really thinking we're also not only are we going to have exploration in the skies, but I'm hoping at least the islands we go into are going to have some kind of inside caverns, or the original Hyrule itself maybe have some underground caverns as well. So if those floating islands came out of chunks of Hyrule, maybe who knows, that'll reveal some caverns for us to explore.
I
Hopefully.
really hope that
Or time travel, but
exploration
who knows?
isn't just the islands. Like, I hope there is new stuff that they put into Hyrule. Because if they don't, like, we know the world already. It's not. We're just gonna be like, I want to go out to the sky. So yeah, I hope. I'd be surprised if they didn't put in a little extra thing in normal Hyrule.
It just occurred to me that if islands are rising up into the sky, what if the sealed temple were to rise back up? That would be bad.
Ooh. That's
Isn't
good.
there, like-
That's good. Somebody write that down. Write that down.
Wait, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that. Whoa.
Oh, so what if the sealed temple rose up back into the sky? Imagine how bad that would be.
Yeah, I
That
mean
would mean-
the Forgotten Temple.
That would be crazy.
The Forgotten Temple
Would
in that canyon really reminds me of
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
the Temple of Hylia or Sealed
Mhm.
Temple, but
Wouldn't that mean? Because let me just think of Skyward Sword for a sec. In Skyward Sword, we all know Skyward Sword's story, right? I'm not spoiling anything.
Yeah.
I sort of assumed
then-
everybody here would be up to date. But go
Yeah.
ahead.
I just
Never
wanted to
heard
make
of it actually.
I just wanted to make sure. So, like, with the time travel in Skyward Sword, we defeat Demise in the past after he gets crushed by the statue in the present time.
Hmm.
If that started raising up again, would that mean that the imprisoned, like, would be free in a way, or is that mean that is he dead or is he just stuck under there?
That
It's
is
kind of-
unclear.
That's what I mean. Like, he's dead. He's not back. But is he actually dead, or is he just?
I assumed he was because Link uses the Triforce to like put an end to him.
Yeah.
He's only mostly dead and slightly alive.
He's just a pancake.
not to get too off topic, but I wanted to go back real quick to that enemy variety discussion.
Oh yeah.
I just real quick, I just wanted to say, like, I really hope that in Breath of the Wild's sequel, that Nintendo kind of calms down on the whole Stalfos thing, because my biggest gripe with that game, I'm not gonna lie about this, all of the different Stalfos constantly coming out at night and like just messing with you, that was like the most annoying thing in the game for me. Because like on the Great Plateau, like when you first play the game, it's like, oh dang, the Stalfos, this is like really interesting because you fight them, and they're not like a typical Stalfos enemy, because there's like the Stal Bokoblins and the Stal Lizalfos and like the Stalnoxes. There's like skeleton versions of all the enemies, right?
Hmm.
But after like the Great Plateau and like as you play the game, especially on replays, it starts to feel a lot more gimmicky, and really it's just, to me, it's like really annoying, because they just constantly, no matter where you are in the overworld, they spawn and then they mess with you.
Non-stop.
And
That's how I feel about the Yiga as well.
yeah, that's how, like, exactly. Like, I wish that they would tone down the Stalfos enemies by A, reducing how like where they spawn, and B, like maybe having them level up alongside you so that they're actually more challenging, because even in the beginning of the game, they're still like not too hard to fight, but especially
you
like
just
end
shoot them in the
game.
head with an arrow and they die instantly.
Yeah, exactly. Like especially like end game, they're not even like worth the challenge. Like there's no reason to fight them. Like they're just so like it's so easy to kill them. That it just makes it an inconvenience at that point. And
Yeah.
I would really prefer if they like toned down the whole Stalfos thing.
I
Because,
think a key way of
oh,
fixing
man.
that would be making enemies intentionally placed instead of having them randomly spawn when you're exploring. That way, you can approach the
Yes.
situation, think,
Yeah.
I'm going to approach it this way or that way, and not just have it sprung up on you. Having random encounters is good, but they should be placed in specific locations, so it's not actually random. It's something you trigger by going to a certain spot.
Right, like the Stal Henoxes are in specific locations.
I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
the Stal Hinox, or Hinox. I say Hinox. But because when I was exploring Hyrule, I did not find one of those for hours. I was like 50 hours into the game, if that, maybe even more, until I found one of those. And I just saw like the bones, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And then like I saw the bones like in the daytime before I even saw it up, and it was in a completely different area where I saw it up, and I was like, "What is that?" It was just, that was really cool. But yeah, the normal style enemies are annoying. I would have preferred if they just had normal Stalfos that had swords and shields, because so many people died in Hyrule 1,000 years ago. Why are there not Stalfos freaking knights, like,
Well,
corrupted by malice?
Yes.
I mean, even
Why did not-
100 years ago, there was a lot of death in it.
Oh yeah. I meant 100 years ago. But yeah, I was just like, are we going to get people? Are they actually going to put up a fight? Because normally Stalfos are, when I think of Stalfos, I think they're in the same kind of category as Redeads and Gibdos. They're the scary enemies that are bigger than Link, that take a lot of damage. They give a lot of damage to you if they hit you. And the ones in Breath of the Wild are like little babies.
Yeah.
Clearly, we need
But-
a Stal Linox.
Please. Oh, and with the Yiga, by the way, I wanted to mention this. I thought of it when you brought it up. The Yiga are annoying when they pop up, but I still like fighting them. I think they were really cool when you first find them, like when you talk to them,
Mm-hmm.
like when you're walking around and you talk to them. That was when I thought they were really, really cool. It was really annoying though when I worked out which people were Yiga. They were always the people who didn't have names. They were always standing still. I'm like, I'm just not going to talk to you because I don't want to fight you. But I would have loved if they were more random characters. Like, oh, it's Beedle. No, it's not. It's a Yiga dressed as Beedle. Like, once
That
you
would've
know what,
That'd actually be
would've
really
been
cool. Just to do
once you
once,
know
and just
what
once.
makes it- yeah, like once you know
Oh
what
man.
how they act and how they behave and where they're placed. It's like there's no point talking to them unless you need certain weapons or want some bananas.
I started
Uh.
planting bombs next to them before I talked to them.
That's what a sane person
Right.
does, as you do.
Okay, let's move
Yeah,
on to the next question if everybody's okay. Didn't mean to cut you off there.
Sorry, no, that's okay.
Okay, so what is your pet theory about Breath of the Wild 2? We'll go ahead and just start from the top again.
Okay. So this is gonna be very far fetched, but bear with me. Like, this is like just like kind of a little bit of imagination going in there. So I have I'm sure like other people have theorized this. But I have this theory that, my own little personal theory on what, based on this new trailer. I had this theory that, in the trailer when we see Zelda fall, I'm theorizing that she doesn't actually make it, and she actually ends up dying from the fall. And based on what we see in the trailer, I was thinking it would be insane if Link has to go back into the past to figure out how to prevent this from happening.
So I've had very similar thoughts to this, but
And the reason I think that is because with Skyward Sword coming back on the Switch, I think Nintendo's trying to get people ready for how Skyward Sword's story could parallel or connect with Breath of the Wild 2's story. And in Skyward Sword, this in itself is debatable, but it's kind of implied in Skyward Sword's story that the hero that Zelda talks about in the ceremony is actually Skyward Sword Link himself, since he goes back in time to fight Demise. And I was thinking the same thing could happen for Breath of the Wild 2, that Breath of the Wild Link could be the same Link from 10,000 years ago, and he goes back in time in order to figure out how to prevent this entire event from happening so that Zelda doesn't die.
Interesting.
Yeah, and
He went a little bit far back, though. I'm not gonna lie, just a little bit.
A little bit too far. Yes,
he overshot.
There are imperfections with the theory, obviously, because like that's a long time, and also like it would kind of create like this weird paradox, I think, because like if he went back in time to like that's true, but like it would like if he went back in time to like fight Ganondorf from like the past or something like that, then it would kind of prevent like the entirety of Breath of the Wild from happening in general, I think, because all the calamity like malice comes from Ganondorf, like himself.
I've played with a very similar concept in my mind, and yeah, I've been thinking about like what if Link goes back in time, not necessarily to save Zelda, although Zelda would be a priority, but to completely undo the sealing of Ganon to prevent the calamity outright, because it's just been coming back for like 10,000 years supposedly. It shows up every now and then, causes problems. So what if they tried to fix the problem by more permanently solving the Ganondorf problem? Just an idea.
I keep coming up with more ideas with time travel. I'm just like, what if they go back 10,000 years? What if they go back before Skyward Sword and this Link is the true first Hylian's hero? I'm like, what just like keep coming up with all these stupid like definitely not happening.
They could go back to creation and leave a sign for the goddesses saying, "Don't bother, move
on."
Don't bother.
It's ruined. Leave.
Waste of time.
So we just leave Hyrule Historia with the timeline.
This was a mistake.
I guess it could be possible that with Breath of the Wild 2, if they do like a crazy time travel paradox thing like that, it could just be in a way Nintendo's excuse to like maybe restart the timeline or like maybe like start a new one. Since Breath of the Wild is like purposely placed like so long after all three of the timelines,
Breath of the Wild is already a soft reboot of the series.
Right, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
the
That's why
rates
they
of
placed it so far in the future. Like,
Mhm.
none of the other games even like make a dent. Like, you could say, oh, it's Wind Waker because of this, or it's Twilight Princess timeline because of this, but it doesn't matter because of how far it takes. So yeah,
And it makes me so sad. I hope they go
It makes
back to
me
the other
sad, but
games
it's
someday.
interesting.
I want
God,
to see
yeah.
some more. I'm not done with those stories.
I want the cemented placement in the timeline for Breath of the Wild.
I do too, but at the same time, it's
Um,
like it's complicated. So
Speaking of the older games, though, when Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask got their 3D remakes, I was very hopeful that we would get a third Hero of Time game that would be like
Please, I
original.
want it.
That would be
Ah!
like original for the 3DS, and it would be like, so in the child timeline we have Ocarina of Time where it's like young Link and adult Link like co-siding with each other for the Ocarina of Time story, and then Majora's Mask is exclusively young Link with all these transformations and stuff. And I was really thinking how cool it'd be if they made a third Hero of Time game that shows just the adult Link portion of the Hero of Time's life in the child timeline, and it like directly connects with Twilight Princess because he becomes the Hero of Shade.
So
Yeah, and does he
there's
find Navi? We
mystery.
never hear the end of that story.
Mhm.
He's searching for
Yeah.
his friend, but we never see what happens.
Navi
So-
died and got reincarnated as me.
So
No way!
Why
It's
do you
an
think
honor
I
to
say
meet you.
Hylians at the beginning
Can
of
I
all
have
my
your signature,
videos?
please?
Signature. We gotta hear the iconic lines. Come on, Navi, please. We gotta hear them.
So there's actually a creator online on YouTube who's been making some fan videos about that very topic. I'll link it under very high quality.
Oh, is that what is his name? Starts with
Major-
an R, right? Rowan?
Major Link?
It's Major Link. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm getting confused.
He actually just uploaded like a new one
Mhm.
yesterday.
The animations, right?
It's called The Legend of Zelda: A Hero's Purpose. It's so good.
It's very
Right,
good.
Rowan Link is the animator who does Breath of the Wild stuff.
Yep.
Mostly.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Right. I can
They
remember
both do
this.
animation.
I actually voiced a minor character in one of his animations actually.
Oh, that's nice.
Hey!
For R1 Link. I voiced I think I voiced one of the guards for Hyrule Castle. It was pretty cool.
So let's move on to the next person. Oni Black Mage, what is your pet theory?
So just to, by the way, bounce off Hylian Luke there, which I love the boldness. And you also touched on something that I also wished, which is I would love to play a game where you play the old man Link who dies and becomes a skeleton who teaches the Twilight Princess Link his maneuvers. I want to be that Link. I think
Well,
that'd
that
be super
technically
cool.
would be the third. That would
That's
be
what I'm
like
saying.
a third game for it. Yeah.
Except that, you get to be like a grizzled old Link. Different take.
Okay, fair enough.
Link,
I see the distinction. It's a good
please.
distinction.
God of War with Link.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know,
Boy.
it would be like Old Man Snake who has the mental trauma from the Gerudo War.
Yeah, like he's seen some stuff. This is a serious timeline. But otherwise, that does kind of tie into my pet theory, which I'm always searching for links to, no pun intended, to one of my favorite games. So I think the green hand that Link gets a hold of that we're looking at, since we have a slightly longer look at it than we did in the first reveal trailer 2 years ago, I think that there's actually something sinister behind it. I don't think it's something good. I think, so Link and Zelda are looking into those hieroglyphics, the Zonai, and, the Zonai are associated with the ancient barbarians. Well, barbarian is exactly a flattering term. And then the armor we get is very attack heavy. So it kind of suggests something very savage or something very powerful may be in the works here. So what if that green hand is not sealing or holding back the malice and or Ganondorf? What if it's actually absorbing it from him, leeching it from him, and Ganondorf is just there helpless, and it's actually harvesting it from him for its own purpose? When Link gets a little of that malice on him, the arm isn't there to cure it or cleanse it. It's consuming it from him, maybe even assimilating him, which is part of the reason why he can get access to these new/ancient tech. Perhaps information on the culture is not missing, but it's actually hidden on purpose. Maybe the end result is a powerful but terrible magic deliberately buried, like the Breath of the Wild version of a fierce deity or Majora. Maybe they're playing with a force that's too strong to handle. And then this is my lead up to that. What if maybe it's a connection to another clan from another Zelda game we're already aware of, like the Garo ninjas from Majora's Mask, who, by the way, have green eyes and die in green fire. So there's that theme color there as well. So
I didn't think about that connection.
love that.
I had thought that, and I know other theorists have come up with this too, but the idea that Ganondorf is been sealed there, of course, against his will, and is in anguish, and that's the cause of the malice. Being in torment for thousands of years probably doesn't make you too happy.
Not me making a theory on that before Breath of the Wild sequel was even announced.
But yeah, to me, the idea of other dimensional malices that can really subdue even the ones we're aware of, like, Majora's Mask, I love that theory. I'd like to see that come again.
Okay. I guess that'd make it my turn. My pet theory, and this one's going to be a little meta, I think that they are intending to end the series with this.
I thought of that. I don't want it to be true.
Ending the series.
Or at least trying to, because there are so many timeline splits, they could easily make another one. But I feel like this is designed to wrap up everything Aonuma has created. From the time split in The Wind Waker, from Twilight Princess, his work on Ocarina of Time, Skyward Sword, of course. I feel like this is gonna be the big wrap up before he hands things off. So whatever happens in it's probably going to wrap up whatever happens with Ganondorf, wraps up the Triforce, and maybe we'll even get a happy ending. Maybe.
What in the trailer suggested this line, I thought?
Oh, so the trailer itself, it's mostly just the connection with Ganondorf in particular, and how focused he is in it, the rising back into the sky. It feels like they're just trying to draw all the connections together that we've seen in play. So, I guess the trailer...
When you say connections, you mean connections to, like, Skyward Sword?
Yeah, absolutely.
Trying to end in the same place we started.
Try to wrap up everything.
It's like
Full
Aonuma's time as Zelda, like tying all of Aonuma's Zelda games together, wrapping a nice little bow on it.
I very much feel that the first trailer was supposed to call back the concepts from Twilight Princess, and this one very clearly calls the Skyward Sword. So
there's also a lot of the references, like with Zelda turning in very similar ways to how they did in Ocarina and stuff.
Right.
With the idea of it ending, I thought of it too, but the way I was like ending more of the end of the timeline, because even if they decided this is the final Zelda game in the timeline, does not mean that we cannot get more Zelda games. Like, there's a huge gap between Breath of the Wild and the games before it. Like, they could even come back after, but I have thought of what if they want to make this the last Zelda game. I am scared.
Yeah, and the vagueness of the timeline.
This is sacrilege. You guys are wrong.
Yeah, like they would obviously never stop making Zelda games. I mean, they print money. But like the vagueness, the vagueness of the timeline really allows for them to jump back at any point in time and then just put another dot in and say, "Hey, this game happens here," because we don't have concrete numbers. Like, it's not like Ocarina happened, at this point in time, and then like 200 years later this happened. So there's a lot of they have a lot of leeway to where they could place other games in between. We might even get a game that would happen directly after Skyward Sword before Minish Cap, because there's no exact time frame. It's just there's
hundreds
the order.
There's like hundreds of years between games next to each other in the timeline. Like Skyward Sword, Minish Cap. There's hundreds of years between those, because you've got the establishing of Hyrule and all that between then. And there's so much time that can still be put into the timeline, and even things that are so close together.
So sure, that's always the situation. But when I say ending it, I mean the ongoing continuity of really the struggle of the Triforce. They could always make another game where, and I know you love him, Zelda Girl, but Vati reappears and they have to blow him up or something. But I'm talking about
interesting image in my head. Vati just blowing up.
But I'm talking about the struggle between over the possession of the Triforce and the
Yeah.
saga that's built up around that.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
So what's your pet theory?
Oh god, I have so many ideas. I did a video on time travel, so I don't really want to mention that because I've already talked about
I feel
it.
like we're all steering away from time travel, right?
Yeah,
'Cause it's
I
like
think we're
it's the obvious one.
Yeah.
I think everyone's like got the idea of time travel already. I've thought about possibly like what we could see like from past games because I love my connection stuff as Zelda games, like through the little details and stuff and through like the races and the enemies. And I'm really hoping that we see something like the Uka come back in a new way, and or the people from the Sky Tribe from
Minish Cap.
Minish Cap, thank you. And just like all that kind of stuff. I love it. I just want to see kind of stuff like that. Oh god, I can't think of any theories right now, and I wrote some down. Yeah. Concept ideas, like just theories around all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Theory about why all the trees are yellow.
They're ginkgo
Yeah.
trees.
They're all yellow.
I'm curious
It's fall.
about.
Yeah.
It's
My main
falling. It's
theory.
falling in the sky, but not on the surface.
Yep, that's it.
Well, I actually not to self promote too much, but in the last video that I did, like one of the reasons I think it deals with time travel is those trees, and I did some like research on that, and there's in Eastern, like originally they were indigenous to China, but there's these ancient trees called ginkgo trees that live for hundreds of years. There's some that are like 1,500 years old, but they're yellow. Like they specifically have yellow leaves, and when they were introduced into China, they've been staples of Japanese gardens and shrines and temples. So all this like Eastern architecture that we see with like the Torii Gate type structures and stuff like that, and these yellow trees leads me to believe that that was the real world inspiration for
The whole
for
thing.
the color foliage.
The whole thing does have an air of Shintoism to it. I feel.
It does, yes.
Yeah.
And we also have Shinto gates, so
Mhm.
I just did a lot of researching on the Shinto religion for my Death Sword theory because I did a Shinto themed video because of my my memberships. They requested a Shinto analysis,
Uh-huh.
and I did not feel like I knew enough about Shintoism ahead of time, so I went with a Death Sword theory. But yeah, I totally agree. Like, what are they called? The Torii?
Yeah,
Those
the Torii.
gates?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just the trees and the aesthetics of the islands in the sky. It totally seems to be blending the Asian and like Asian / Chinese / Japanese culture well with the Mediterranean, as Bread acknowledged earlier.
Mhm.
wowzers, that's coincidental and also incredibly convenient.
Yeah,
Right on time. You learned about him.
yep.
Nice.
I learned did the research just a week before. So
I guess, like, away from the time travel, my main theory is that we will see things like the Uka and maybe the Loft Wings and all that kind of stuff come back. Side note, please let me ride a Loft Wing with my Zelda amiibo that I spent £30 on Nintendo.
Please.
Honestly.
It's kind of also like one thing I was thinking of in regards to the weird droplet of water is I mentioned in my time travel video that I thought it was more important because it reminded me of how we get the runes in Breath of the Wild. Like they drop down. And like that's a specific design choice to kind of like use for that. And it also kind of just reminded me of like little portals. I think are they in Minish Cap? Little wind portals that go poof when you go up to the sky. But yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping that we'll see something that confirms like the Uka are around, or the Sky, the Wind Tribe, or wherever they are back, or they were the Zonai all along, or something. And one little idea I had that was literally just me thinking of stupid stuff before this discussion started was the the sky area is not really the sky. It is the Twilight Realm now being really nice.
Aw, I like that. That's
It's just
good.
because I just
Please.
thought, what other places float that aren't in the sky? Oh, the Twilight Realm. It's the and then there's the Twilight Realm weird mirror thing, and there's all this. I'm like, oh,
It's
that's
the
never gonna happen.
Yeah,
maybe.
Zeltic talked about it being the sacred realm, but I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Yeah,
No.
no.
It's the Sunset Realm.
A sunset realm.
I still think it's the
Holiday.
autumn realm, full of
Tree
the autumn
dimension.
trees. Tree dimension.
Oracle. It's actually going to be Oracle of Seasons.
Ooh,
I
there
Oh,
we
don't
go.
tempt me now.
I
Oh,
actually just remembered something. We could still play as Zelda, but she's underground while Link is in the sky.
That would be cool if they had the
Like
coordinate.
she's trying to find her own way out.
Right, kind of like Paper Mario, where you get to play as Peach for certain sections of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the connection I usually hear people make for that.
Just imagine running around with Zelda with the Master Sword
Well,
underground.
I mean, I would have made the connection with more like the co-op with Zelda and Spirit Tracks, but I mean that works too.
I do think the Master Sword also falls down with Zelda because Link doesn't have it after that point, and I'm guessing that part of the game with Ganondorf we see in the trailer happens fairly early because it seems like set up for the rest of the game, and after that Link does not have the Master Sword, so I'm guessing that he will drop it and it will be down there with Zelda, and Zelda will have the Master Sword, so if we do play as her, she can use the Master Sword, which would be
And-
really cool.
And it will have that terrible recharge mechanic. Yay.
And it will have Fee, because Zelda can talk to Fee.
Dang, that would actually be
can
really
only
cool
dream.
though.
Oh,
That would be
I
really
want-
cool though if Link has like the Zonai arm and Zelda has the Master Sword with her underground. And then like maybe at the end of the game, Zelda and Link like both use like the Master Sword and the Zonai hand to like combine the two into like ultimate chaos against Ganondorf or something. That'd be so cool.
That's getting a little too Kingdom Hearts for me.
I just want Zelda to talk to Fee more, because that whole scene in Breath of the Wild where you hear Fee's theme and you hear a little sound, I was sobbing.
It plays
I'm
her.
like, please.
It plays Skyward Sword music there too.
Yeah, it plays that Fee's theme song when she's talking to Zelda. It's like, oh, please, I want more of that. You can't just give me that little taste. I need the whole thing. So yeah, that's mine. I've talked long enough. Red.
Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, my theory is a lot more mundane. I believe that the Master Sword, since it is the bane, let me look up the exact wording here. It is the bane. It is the blade of evil's bane. Blade of evil's bane. Kind
Bane
a
of
tongue
Evil's
twister.
Blade.
That was what I was gonna say. Yeah, since it is the bane of evil, and Link's hand in part of the trailer is being infected by malice, it's quite likely that will be the excuse for why he can't use it. If his arm is infected by malice, and it's evil, it can't really wield the
That's a
bane
good
of
idea.
evil. So it's likely that Link just won't be able to use it for that reason. And then that ties into why there's a scene where there's the aquamarine spirit power around him. That's cleansing his arm so that he can then wield the Master Sword again. It's a mundane theory. It's a little small. It's not as grand maybe as the other ones, but I think there's some evidence to support it.
Yeah, I like that.
That's nice. I like that.
The Malice.
Oh yeah, that was it.
Link Farm.
Sweet.
It's funny you mentioned the arm though, because some people have theorized that, like we've said before in our discussions, that it could be a completely different arm and not Link's arm just combined with the other one. It could be completely replacing it, mainly because if you've noticed, Link's fingernails are really long on that hand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he has much longer fingernails.
And if you pay attention to the scene, he does seem to be lacking any clothing outside of his Sheikah tights.
That is
whole
true.
scene when it's actually zoomed in on the arm reminds me of a lot of when Link wakes up at the beginning of Breath of the Wild.
Yep.
So
Shrine of
why?
Resurrection.
Intentional.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and like he's laying, because I'm looking at the bit now. He's laying on some kind of like stone area which has all these markings in, so it looks important. And I was just thinking, like, maybe after the arm attaches with him, he just gets knocked out, and wakes up. But then why has he got all of these different clothes and stuff? Who changed his clothes? Again, Raru. Hey, putting
It's
tights
best.
on Link while he's asleep.
It's best not to think about that in with Ocarina of Time. I mean, Link was a
Yeah.
young boy.
Raru just put Link in some better fitting clothes, put him in some tights, pierced his ears.
Oh god, he did
Yeah,
pierce
that's
his
at some point
ears.
after
Like-
getting attacked by Malice, he's laying down. Someone takes his shirt off. Then he gets the green arm while he's laying on the floor. Then some
He's
stuff
laying next
happens.
to
He wakes
Ganondorf.
up, and then he's all of a sudden skydiving.
He just wakes up in the
In
air.
the skydive.
Nintendo
Wakes
approved.
up, skydiving.
Oh no, I've travelled back to Skyward Sword.
Oh no! It's a paradox.
For the first time ever, we hear Link talk, and that's exactly what he says. Oh no, I've gone back to Skyward Sword.
I think some people would feel like that though. With the reputation
I mean,
Skyward Sword
personally,
gets.
I would love it, but at the
Oh,
same
yeah.
time,
Oh no, it's Skyward Sword.
There
Oh
is
no,
something
it's Phantom
appealing.
Hourglass.
There is something appealing to the continuity porn of going back there and having to interact.
Mm. Go back to Skyloft and everyone's like, "Hey, Link, you found Zelda yet?" No. It's like, oh, what are you wearing? This
Or-
toga I found. Where's your tunic? Who are you talking about? Two Links, same timeline, same time.
So, Tyler, what is your pet theory?
So, I have a pet theory that the spectral green hand is the equivalent of Helia or Demise, except for courage, because we see these tie-ins where Ganondorf has Demise, Zelda has Helia, but Link just has the spirit of the hero.
Mhm.
So I think maybe with this spectral hand, whether it be Zonai or not or whatever, I think that maybe this game kind of delves into whatever his spiritual equivalent is
Mm.
with this green hand, because he's the only one who doesn't have one by name at this point.
I was going to say Ferrari when you meant that, but when you said that, but I'm like, no, because Ferrari's courage, but that would then mean Din and Nehru, which is it would have to be a whole new person if you're going to go with Ferrari, because just having her would
Right.
be like weird.
So you're absolutely right that there's sort of this missing entity of the green energy. I did a couple of videos talking about the relevance of the different colored energies we see, relating the blue from the Shikatek to wisdom, the red and malice to power, and the green we see here to courage. I like your idea that it could be hinting at another equivalent entity to Hylia and Demise, but that's so unsupported at this point, unfortunately. I love the idea.
The only thing prevalent that I can think of that is always kind of seen as green is magic in the Zelda series. Like magic bottles and stuff are always represented with green. And that's like the only thing so far. And
Pikachu
that's
juice.
not.
Although, darn it, they're not green in Breath of the Wild. Darn it, that messed it up. Never mind.
The
Well,
magic
I'm gonna hide. I'm gonna
Twinkle
go
in
into the
Twilight
shame corner.
Princess.
I'm gonna go into the corner of shame.
Eat your bread in shame.
I was gonna say it's green, but no, it's blue. The what's its face? Lord of the Mountain. It's blue. I thought, well, maybe that could be.
So, yeah.
Oh,
So yeah, it and the bloopies are blue, but the light that emanates from the mountain is green.
Yeah, it's similar light, but I was just like, could that be it? There is the only oh wait, Breath of the Wild related. The when the monks disappear, it's the same color.
Mm-hmm.
Like I found a picture. Here is a replica. Yeah,
Taking a look. Yep.
like it's the same color. But
Oh
that,
yeah.
how does that connect to like the? Oh, I have an idea. I'm sorry, I'm really talkative. I'll shut up. I'm sorry, I get really into this stuff.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I wanted you on it to
Mhm.
help breathe some energy in.
I did just think that maybe what if the green light is the souls of past heroes?
Could be.
Because there's demise with Ganondorf, Hylia with Zelda, because Zelda is her reincarnation. But Link never was like the reincarnation of a god or anything. He was just a boy.
Spirit of the hero.
Yeah, he just had the spirit of a hero. So what if the hand is somehow all of the essence or the spirits of past heroes that will help Link?
Could be.
That's the only thing I can really think of.
Makes me think of Avatar a little with the past, whatever.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've personally always thought of Demise and Hylia as like parallel opposites from one another. So
Yin and yang.
yeah, basically, yeah, like a yin and yang kind of thing. I have a couple, not to self promote too much, but I have a couple videos where I talk about like these parallelisms and stuff. But I was kind of thinking since in Breath of the Wild, we kind of focus on Zelda and her being aware, not that she is like a descendant of the reincarnation of Hylia or anything like that, but she's aware that she has these divine like powers, and it traces back to um her ancestral tree for Skyward Sword Zelda being the reincarnation of Hylia.
Hmm.
So I was thinking with Breath of the Wild 2, back when we only had the initial trailer, it really focused on Ganondorf's corpse, and with all the Dark Malice and all that, I was thinking like, what if this game focuses more on Ganondorf and his connections to Demise?
I will take any more Ganondorf content. Give me a whole game from Ganondorf.
That is sick.
Let's see that rehydrated Ganon.
Yo, what? Fierce deity? I love that.
Yeah,
I-
Super
I-
Girl, that's a nice picture you posted.
Yeah,
in
it's like
our-
what I
our
was
chat.
saying. It's like, what if?
Fierce deity Zonai Link would be so cool. What the heck?
I
Yeah.
just saw that on Twitter earlier, and as we were talking about it, I thought I would show you guys because it reminded me of like, oh, what?
So I do
What?
actually have a fierce deity Link theory in the works that's a little related to this, but just gonna bring that up now. Let's go ahead and let's see, Tyler, you did yours, right? So, Zeldom, what is your pet theory?
Well, so it's really hard to pick, and I still haven't even picked out a topic for my video yet, but I do have one. I'm trying to make a connection to like the Sheikah and the Zonai stuff we see in the trailer, but I haven't fully worked out my theory yet, so I'm not really going to talk about it here. I'll say that
Gotcha.
I'm going to try to make a video out of that, like tomorrow.
I
But
actually just did a video on that if you would like to look at it, but go ahead.
I would love to look at it.
Okay.
Just as a reference, so I know what not to talk about. Because if basically you go exactly where I'm thinking, I'm going to avoid it. Because I know yesterday I watched Zeltix and Nintendo Mass Bandits collaboration, which I guess I still could do one about the floating islands. Because my main thing is I wanted to do a comparison, an analysis on what could cause these islands to float, because we see a lot of floating islands throughout the Zelda series. But my main thing is the Wind Tribe from Minish Cap. I would love to have another appearance of them, because they really weren't explored that much in the Minish Cap. Because I remember you go to like the Castor Wilds in Minish Cap, and you go through the dungeon to find out that they find this stone engraving, this piece of stone there that kind of has like a Mediterranean design. I guess it looks Greek, and then it says like basically they have taken their wind element and gone to the skies. And I remember that plateau that they built it on. It gives me some serious vibes of of these islands in the trailer, even though it was on the ground. And then there's that tower in the skies, like the what is it called? The Palace of Winds. I remember like the art. There's that tall tower.
The one in Minish Cap?
Yeah, I remember there's this one tall
I
tower
think
where there's
so,
the
yeah.
redhead people of the winds, and then before you go to the Palace of Winds, and I don't know that tower kind of I don't know when I saw that big old structure or tower on one of the islands in the trailer, that made me think. Well, in Breath of the Wild, they had done work to include the Picori into Breath of the Wild and then cut that out.
Yeah, I heard
Oh, I
about
wish
I
that.
think you can you can see that on the cutting room floor.
Hmm. And it's
So I was
worth
wondering.
it's worth noting that that game, the Minish Cap, was also under Aonuma. But continue.
Well, I thought wasn't it made by Capcom though, or did Aonuma supervise it
I think
still?
Capcom made it, but Aonuma probably supervised.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
It was, from what I recall reading, it was his first real role as director before he was handed Wind Waker. But
Okay.
double check
Oh, I thought
that.
he directed Majora's Mask.
I don't know if he did or not.
I'm pretty sure he did because Miyamoto, I believe Miyamoto directed Ocarina of Time and Eiji Aonuma.
Yeah,
didn't-
Aonuma was given the challenge to make it in a year.
Yeah, he didn't because he didn't want to make the extra content for Ocarina of Time. He wanted to make a new game. So then, like, they had that agreement that if he could like produce a new game in a year, then they wouldn't have to do the extra content for Ocarina of Time.
Okay.
And
That's
so,
why he was
So
interested in changing things in the remake.
I just looked it up, and the published, yeah, what were we talking about? Well, the producer, the developer was Nintendo EAD, publisher Nintendo, designer. Oh, he is listed. Yeah, Aonuma is listed as the director for Majora's Mask. Okay.
Okay. Interesting.
On the
The more
topic
you
of the
know.
Wind Tribe, because obviously I mentioned that I'd love to see them return because I also think that they didn't get enough screen time in the game. The enemy that we see in the trailer reminds me a lot of this boss from Wind Waker, which is also connected to the Wind Tribe in a way, because that's where before you go, I believe. Before, you
Yes.
go there before going
This is
to
the boss from that dungeon in Castor
yeah.
Wilds, like in the
But
ruins.
it reminds that the enemy that we saw, or supposed enemy we saw in the new trailer, reminded me a lot in the way that it was built. Like, it looks very similar to that boss from that game, in my opinion. Apart from the
Yeah,
colours.
I mean, obviously, it's hard to compare like the 2D aesthetic of Minish Cap to
Yeah.
that automaton, but the fact that there is an automaton guarding something that seems to be connected, it's not a strong piece of evidence, but it's a nice hint, you know. So I totally agree that's if I made a video, that is something I was going to, or I am going to address.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next one, and maybe try to keep this a little bit more concise, guys, because I intended this to be an hour, and we're 12 minutes over or something. But
Yeah.
what is
Sorry.
It's fine. You're fine.
We can do it in like 20 words or less from now on.
What is your biggest concern about Breath of the Wild 2? And just start up from the top again.
all right. Biggest concern for me, I'm gonna keep it very simple. Enemy variety. I just want more enemies. That's basically it. I'm scared that they're not gonna make new enemies, and they're just gonna like redesign the one that we already have.
Do you think that what they did for Age of Calamity, where they just slapped elemental types on?
Yeah, basically. I really liked all the new elemental things that they did in Age of Calamity, like having like the electric and like snow Hinoxes. That was nuts. Or like the Malice infected enemies. That was really cool because then it was like double Malice. But yeah, I'm just really concerned that they won't make new enemies. But based on like the trailer though, we might get a few new ones because of that parasite and the ceiling. But other than that, like, yeah, that's just like my biggest concern. I just want more enemy variety.
Yeah, I think we can all agree with you there. Still want that stall Lionel though. How about you, Oni? What's yours?
All right, so my biggest concern is that my house isn't going to carry over. No, I'm just kidding. But this may make an enemy of some people, but My concern is that the game plays it safe. Every sequel, for any game, is just challenged with balancing innovation versus refinement. And I have always felt that Zelda's at its best, or at least definitely its most memorable, when it's taking risks to be great in a different way from what came before. So like Zelda 1 was great a different way from Zelda 2, which was great for different reasons than Link to the Past. Same with Ocarina, Majora, Wind Waker, Onward. For better or for worse, you remember the Dark World in Link to the Past, the countdown in Majora, the sailing in Wind Waker, the motion controls of Skyward Sword, the climbing in Breath of the Wild. The factors that are the sticking point, for why each one is different is arguably more why we love each game over what they do more in common. In Breath of the Wild 2, they're setting its focus differently than how Breath of the Wild did it. I know a lot of people may disagree, but I'm just saying, if you're asking for Breath of the Wild 2.0 fix the things I didn't like edition, I just caution you to think of the predictability you're asking for and the possible staleness of that. I just have absolute confidence that there's going to be great quality. I know I'm going to love this game without even playing it, but I also think that they should not forget variety.
Yeah.
Oof. That's a lot. That's a lot to take in.
That's a good one actually. That's really good.
I disagree with it because of how extreme it seems the way you're saying it is. I prefer there to be a balance where they do take some things that were messed up in the previous one and fix those as well. And then on top of that, have a gimmick that they would like to add that makes it memorable.
Exactly. Balancing innovation and refinement, just somewhere where that balance is the question.
Okay, yeah. I could get behind that. I like that.
I do like how Zelda sequels, like direct sequels, never. Oh yeah, like you said, they always do something different. Like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, completely different games, despite being direct sequels. Wind Waker and Phantom Hourglass, different games entirely in the way that they play and all that kind of stuff.
Sorry.
Like I love that kind of stuff. It's cool. I love how Zelda games with their direct sequels keep similarities. Like you can tell that they are direct sequels to Ocarina of Time and to Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, but they're different either in the way that they play and their stories. That's wait, stories. That's another thing. With the direct sequels, they always kind of take place in different worlds or in like somewhere drastically different.
It does seem like
Which I
an
think
easy
is
cop out
interesting.
for them to just be like, oh, alternate world, here we go.
I like it though.
I mean,
I think it's cool.
speaking of direct sequels, A Link Between Worlds, I felt that the Light World was perhaps a little too samey to A Link to the Past. But Low
I
World
can
was
see
cool.
that.
I personally
guess
loved
the-
that.
I loved
Yeah,
it.
I did
But
too.
I can see why some people might not like it.
You got to think too, like it was a 20-year gap between those games as well. So it's in a way, yeah, it's like you can feel some kind of way because it is the exact same. But if you look at it as like almost like a remaster as a sort, right? Because it is a sequel, it's a direct sequel, but in the same vein, it's very much a Link to the Past. Like just with like with these new assets remastered, this nice, beautiful facelift given to it, and with some new mechanics tied to it. So like. While yes, it is very, very much the same, because there was such a big gap in it and such a big discrepancy on how they look compared to each other. I feel like it's beneficial in that regard in that example.
I mean, in Japan, A Link Between Worlds is literally called Triforce of the Gods 2.
Right.
It is a direct sequel to a Link to the Past, which just shows, like, I guess how close they are and how they were meant to be perceived.
So here's my big concern, and it has to do with the sky. I am afraid that the open world elements we are used to on Hyrule will not continue to the Sky Islands. That you will have to use these Zonai drop points to get up to a small contained Sky Island where you do whatever that Sky Island stuff is, and then have to return back down to the ground and then find another warp point up into the sky. I would really prefer you can just glide between the islands and it's a completely open sky world, but might not be.
That's something I've thought about.
So you mean like gliding back and forth between the islands, or gliding, being
So,
able to
what I-
go up and down without having to have like a going from the islands to the sky without having to sorry the sky islands to the ground without having to have a loading screen? Is that what you're talking about?
So what I would like is you could freely fly throughout the sky world, whether it be by the loft wings or Zonai updraft or teleportation or whatever. But I think that each section of Sky Islands is going to be essentially its own map, kind of like
own little zone.
yeah, their own little zone that you access from the ground through those water points.
Kind of like
Think of it-
Skyward Sword
yeah,
going from sky to ground,
yeah,
but
Think
vice
of it as
versa.
like
Kind of,
Yeah.
but like it's much more self-contained. I mean, there will be like many different sky zones that you may even be able to see from other islands, but you just won't be able to leave. Like there will be invisible walls around the little sky box you're in, and have to go back down to the ground, go over to Gerudo Desert, wherever, find a drop, go up to those sky islands, whatever.
yeah.
Well, if you
I-
play
I-
Amiibo, you don't have to worry about that.
I don't think it'll be quite like that. I think they will have some kind of very innovative way of managing that. Because I think most of the islands will be accessible. I'm still trying to determine if they're going to make it completely open world. Because wherever the goal is in the game, whether it be Hyrule Castle or some island much higher up in the sky than all the other islands, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure there will be some open world in the sky. Like I have no doubt. I'm confident there's not going to be some invisible boundary you can't. Like in Breath of the Wild, when you go to the edge of the map, just you can't go any farther. I don't think that's going to happen in the sky unless you go outside of Hyrule's map. But
I was so mad walking in the desert and getting that freaking notification. I was like, no, let me walk further.
they might have to get innovative with their programming though. When it comes to just loading up the world and their rendering, because if they have to process a much greater, I guess, would it be Z or Y axis? So if they have to
Y
render
is vertical. Y is vertical.
Y is it vertical in 3D? Yeah, you're right.
It's vertical in 3D. I was just doing some measurements.
I think
Breath of
X
the
and
Wild
Y are make a horizontal plane, and then in 3D it's Z. But that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. Sorry, I'm just an engineering major. I'm pretty sure Z is vertical in 3D space. But anyways, point is it would take a lot of RAM to have to load both the ground beneath where you are in Hyrule when you're up in the sky, as well as the islands in the sky. So I don't know if they're going to have to cut that out, and as you fall, they start to render everything in. Because if you fall fast, that might cause some frame rate drops. I'm just concerned about the Switch's capabilities.
Well, maybe that's why we have a glider instead of a loft wing, so we can kind of take that time to cruise by.
I was playing with the idea of
Fall
saying,
from the highest point straight to the ground, though.
I was tempted to say for my fear that it might be a Switch Pro exclusive, because it would need the extra processing power to do exactly what you're talking about, but wanted to shy away from that because that's not popular at all.
It's not a lore. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the Switch Pro version, yeah, you see loft wings, but just like how you can ride horses, Link gets a motorcycle. Instead of a loft wing, you actually get a fighter jet.
Oh, awesome.
Top
I like
integration.
Hey Zeldom, by the way, I did very, very brief research on X, Y, and Z. It seems like Y is used in video games for up and down, such as Minecraft or Breath of the Wild, but then other games they use, or other programs, what you're talking about, they do seem to use Z as the up and down.
Yeah, because in all of my classes where you've been doing like 3D vectors and like you're using vector spaces and such, Z is always the standard. But I guess it really just depends on what software you use or creating something with.
And for many people, Y is the up and down, so we use that.
Yeah,
but that's aside from the point.
Y is always that for 2D space. So
yeah. So, Zelda Girl, what is your biggest concern?
Well, I want to say dungeons. I really want dungeons, but that seems so obvious. Not enough Ganondorf screen time. It seems even more obvious coming from me, but with how long it's been since Ganondorf was in a Zelda game, like not Ganon, I really want him to have like a big part. I want him to like not just pop in at the beginning and end. I want him to have a presence throughout the game. Kind of, maybe even if he doesn't turn up throughout the game, I want him in some way to feel threatening throughout the game. Like Girahim turned up every now and then in Skyward Sword. There was always mentioning of Demise. But I just want Ganondorf to feel like a threatening villain. He's being built up so much in these trailers already. Like it's been so long since we've seen him. I really want Ganondorf to feel like a threatening villain and not just pop in at the beginning and then pop in at the end like he did in Twilight Princess. And just please, he's my favorite.
That's pretty true. Yeah, we haven't even seen him since Twilight Princess, I think.
Yeah, so I'm not counting the remakes. Twilight Princess was the last Zelda game that Ganondorf human form turned up. He's only appeared in 3 Zelda games. This is his 4th Zelda game.
Yeah,
And
it's
so,
important that he feels like a character and not like a force of nature, such as Calamity Ganon was. And also,
right.
as a character, that we actually get to see the character. We want to
Ganondorf
interact
was
with that.
kind of in 4. I mean, he was technically in Four Swords Adventures, but he didn't have screen time, because in the story he was there, but then by the time you see him at the end of the game, he's already Ganon.
It's actually so weird though, because that Ganondorf is a completely different Ganondorf.
Yeah,
I made a whole video on that.
Yeah, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Ocarina of Time are all the same Ganondorf, whereas this one is a where Four Swords Adventures is a reincarnation.
I'd still be really interested. I made a video after the first trailer for the sequel came out, saying how it would be really cool if this new Ganondorf that we see in the trailer is the new Ganondorf somehow from Four Swords, because he is the only Ganondorf that we know of who had the trident, and the trident had turned up in the first trailer. Also, yes, Ganondorf.
The trident showed up in the first trailer. What?
So
it's a painting on the wall, but that's the only time that Ganondorf has had his trident. And on the topic of trident, if my boy does not get his trident in his human form, I will riot. I have wanted that for so long. They keep giving him swords. Give him his trident back.
Give him both.
Give him both.
He could dual wield. He could have his sacred, his sage sword that they tried to kill him with in one hand, and the trident in the other.
Yeah.
Shout out to Hyrule Warriors Ganondorf.
His beautiful hair. But yeah, you guys know I love Ganondorf way too much.
Yes.
I want him.
You made that very evidently clear on Twitter.
I want
your
him
status message here can make that clear enough.
Yeah, status Ganondorf stimp. But yeah, I just want him to get shown and built up properly. I want him to feel like an actual villain, an actual presence that is a threat. He's been locked under Hyrule for so long. There's a reason he's been locked under there, and there's a reason there's got to be a reason that it's even worse him coming back than Calamity Ganon coming back. There needs that reason. They need to make it feel like that. And so
he needs strong motives.
Yeah, he needs to be built up properly and not just put it there, because it's put Ganondorf there, he's the villain, but why are we supposed to fear him? Why are we supposed to fight against him? Especially with people who are new to the series who might not know who Ganondorf is, they really need to, in my opinion. And that's one thing I really hope they do.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
They definitely need more than him just waking up and being like, after 10,000 years, I'm free. It's time to conquer Hyrule.
So I'm a big fan of show versus tell, because it's always more, just more effective. What would you need to see Ganondorf do to establish this guy is no joke? Take him seriously. He will wreck armies and worlds. Cut off Zelda's head, something dramatic. What do we need to do?
Burn down Hiteno, burn down Kakariko, kill Impa.
Now, I think the key to that being effective is he would actually have to be there. You'd have to see him doing it. Because then we actually, that's the whole thing we're talking about. We want to interact with him.
Let him put a Sephiroth at Hateno Village and just have him burn it down and walk into the flames like a badass.
I think a good way to show that he means business is we see Link, getting his arm covered in malice, right? And that's the only shot of the Master Sword. What if he breaks the Master Sword?
Oh, there you
go. Completely destroys the Master Sword, and that's
I
why
like
we
this
don't see
idea.
it.
It's the Master Sword. Where's
Yeah,
Fee
but, like, I
supposed
mean-
to go then?
You can rebuild it later on throughout the game. Like maybe there's a quest to rebuild it. I think
Zelda
Nate
Girl,
may
you're
have brought
ecstatic
that up.
about something. What was that?
I have been thinking, in Breath of the Wild, like, the Master Sword is really kind of not useful. It breaks itself. What if the Master Sword isn't full for some reason? Maybe because of the time between, like, it was rusted, it was broken when Zelda put it back. Maybe something happened that it hasn't got its full power anymore. Part of this game means that we have to go and, like, repair it, help Fee can maybe come back, Skyward Sword connection, and that's how he can break it, because it's not got the full power. We don't even need the Master Sword to kill Calamity Ganon. Like, you don't have to, but what if there's something wrong with the Master Sword that we haven't yet found out about, and that's what Ganondorf is able to break the Master Sword?
Not where I
Because
thought
it's
that was
not-
going. I thought you were
Wind
going to
Waker.
say that Fee goes into the arm or something, but that works too.
Maybe.
Maybe.
But I've always thought that what if the Master Sword was missing something, like something wasn't right. That's why Fee could only talk to Zelda and maybe not Link, because I don't think it was specifically said that he could hear her all the time.
Yeah.
And so, like, what if something was wrong, maybe even between that gap where it was broken and Ganondorf breaks it then. Also, there was artwork with the Master Sword that was broken in half. Like, in one of the bits I was talking about in my video I'm working on, so I've been looking
Maybe
at it a lot.
the
lately.
reason why Zelda has her piece of the Triforce, Ganondorf has his piece of the Triforce, but Link doesn't have his piece of the Triforce is because Ganondorf broke it. He shattered it, and you have to go find 8 temples with 8 pieces of the Triforce and build it again.
Oh, and then you have to get maps from Tingle. Yeah, that sounds
Yes,
great.
you have to get the 8 maps, fly to different islands,
Oh.
and then build it. I think it'll disciples it.
A tiny thing I
perfect.
would be disappointed not to see, this is my last point. If I do not see Tingle flying around in his balloon, I will be sad. If I do not see Beetle flying around in a hot air balloon or his little flying house, I will be sad.
Oh yeah, you did like
Let
a little air.
let
Bring
the
back
let
the
them
Beetle, the
let them
Beetle
fly.
airship.
Yeah, I want him in the hot air balloon. I just want Tingle with just a
Yeah,
giant balloon
I prefer
on
the
his back.
Spirit Tracks one over the Skyward Sword one where he's
Yeah.
pedaling the entire time.
I do like how he tries to murder you in that one though.
Yeah, that's always the best part. Because I
Well
know I
said, well
didn't buy
said.
stuff from him a lot.
But I love Beetle. I love Tingle. I really want them to come back.
Oh, I can't stand Tingle personally, but
We need a happy mass
Blasphemy.
salesman.
Oh, it's my
Sacrilege.
boy.
yes, we
This
do
is
need a
un-
masked salesman.
It's Super Zelda Girl. It's okay. We'll beat him up later over this. We'll beat him up later.
We'll make him play Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land.
Yes! The most
Even
evil
though
of the Tingle games.
Even though in our collaboration, Bread literally says, "Why do these exist?"
Hey, whoa. That was before. Uh-oh, somebody left. But that was before. That was before I became acquainted with
Welcome
the
back.
history of Tingle and came to appreciate him.
And his devilish looks.
Yes. Well,
I guess
I think
I'm not cultured enough to appreciate him yet.
You're not cultured enough.
exactly. It's all right. We'll fix that later. So my point for something that I would be worried about them messing up or doing differently, or doing in a way that I don't like. Something I'm worried about them doing is taking the items that you earn throughout the game and then giving them all to you at the very beginning. Breath of the Wild did this on the Great Plateau, and although a lot of newcomers kind of appreciated that because it means you aren't locked from doing anything at any point in the game, I felt a little bit gypped because I like the acquisition of items. I like being able to gain items as I go through the games. I find that to be a lot of fun, and I hope they have something like that in the sequel, instead of giving you all your runes or whatever it is they're going to replace them with at the very beginning.
Redo Rabio.
Yeah, something I've
Do what
always
they
loved
did with
about Zelda
Rabio.
is like the backtracking, because like there's always like in any other 3D Zelda game there are so many areas, like even if it's like for a small purpose, there are areas where you're like, I wonder where that goes, or I wonder what that does. And then later on in the game you get an item and it connects to what you were thinking about earlier on when you were playing the game, and then allows you to go back to where you were before, and then you can use your new item to get a piece of heart or something like that. It's just like I really love item collection in Zelda. It's super fun. Plus, like, when you have new items to use, like, it allows a, like, variety in, what is it? Like, attempting different things or experimenting in, like, environments and stuff.
Yeah.
And it just, yeah.
Sure. Like
I really want more upgrades. Like because really your items, what are they useful for in Breath of the Wild? Mainly just creating recipes, elixirs, and upgrading your armor or clothes. And I think that Breath of the Wild has potential to have a lot more things you can upgrade. Upgrade your weapons like you do in Skyward Sword, where you upgrade your bows, you upgrade your beetle, you upgrade your hookshot. Well, actually, I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
think you
surprised.
upgrade the hookshot, do you? I don't know. I
I
don't remember.
No.
I think you get an
No.
upgrade from one of the silent realms, or do you?
You're just handed the double claw shots from the
Oh
silent.
yeah,
that's
I'm getting
what I
it
thought.
confused with
Oh
Twilight
yeah,
Princess.
I remember the
Yeah.
the dialogue like, "You
I
found
Bring
feel
a
back
second
the
claw
hook
shot."
shot.
I think the best way to do like the best way to do kind of that open world feel is to have something like what we did with Ravio. Like you can get them at any point. Like you buy them or you find them from him, but you don't get them in a specific order, and you can get them like in whatever you want, like when you need it.
It was a
That would be
very
great because the
interesting
original
way.
Legend of Zelda did that in a way
Yeah.
because you could go into any dungeon you wanted at any time and get that item and then get out. So I hope they do something similar.
Assuming you had bombs or whatever you needed to access the dungeon.
Yeah, but you could get bombs at the
Yeah.
very beginning, so that's not really a huge
Yeah.
limiting factor.
I've been wanting to
Yeah.
do a video on my thoughts on that kind of stuff for a while, and the main point I can say is Breath of the Wild is created as an open world game. They wanted it to be after like the original Zelda. The original Zelda is an open world game with a order, but it's up to you if you want to follow that order, which makes it feel like you're progressing when you get all these new items and stuff, because things get harder as it progresses, while Breath of the Wild stays at one thing. Like it's at one level, in my
Absolutely.
opinion.
Okay.
That
And
is
I've always
all I
felt
would
that
say.
Breath of the Wild is like to me like a modernization of the original Legend of Zelda.
They built it off a similar map. I mean, there's that 2D build that they had somewhere.
Release the 2D prototype!
Yeah, I know.
Please.
They get so much money if they did.
I want that so bad.
They do a Mario Odyssey where like there's a dungeon where you are 2D Pixel Link.
They should have released that prototype for the 35th and
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
There's a
I
lot of
want that
things.
so
Game &
much.
Watch.
It looks so
There's a
cool.
lot
on the Game and Watch. Yes, that would have been so cool.
There's a lot they should have done for the 35th. I'm kind of disappointed.
Yeah.
I think most
That's
of
a
us
whole
are.
Everyone
nother.
cry.
That's a whole nother discussion.
I'm mad
in
that
and
there's
of
no
itself
Zelda
there.
3D All Stars. Or
Hey,
2D
we
All
still have the
Stars.
year
Like,
left.
Well,
You never know.
give
They
me
might
my
surprise
the
us.
year-
Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks remakes.
Yeah, the year's only half over. They could
True.
they could be lying like straight to our faces, like we don't know.
I mean, I said before, like, so many people seem so angry that just because if we don't end up getting, like, Wind Waker or whatever in the 35th, doesn't mean we won't get them on the Switch. We could get them at another time. Like, there was a whole pandemic last year which held things back. So if they know people want them, we could eventually get them after the 35th anniversary. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
we need Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks
I think
remakes.
there's still a chance we'll get something else later this year too.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll do more than just Skyward Sword HD, Zelda Game and Watch, and because Breath of the Wild 2 is not this year. I'm sure there was a lot of Mario content that came out last year, so I'm sure they're gonna at least come out with one more game.
I hope so.
Cadence of Hyrule 2. Actually would be really happy with that. I freaking love that game.
I still need to
I
get
mean,
a figure of
I
that.
probably get it. I've only played Cadence of Hyrule once all the way through with my sister. You know, it was fun, but it's not a game I would play by myself. It's something you just play with a friend or sibling.
Mm.
Okay, so Tyler, what is your concern?
My biggest concern is that they backpedal on the innovation from Breath of the Wild. There's nothing to hint towards this at all, and it's really just how they framed the trailer. But I don't. When I watch that and I see the two armor sets, there's just some screaming voice in the back of my mind saying, "Wow, those are the only two armor sets we're going to get this entire game." I know that's like 99% probably not going to happen, but I'm just fearful that all the customization and the things that broke the Zelda mold, so to say, get backpedaled to a point to where it's not a Breath of the Wild game anymore. If that makes sense. Like it's fine to have like the same kind of structure as a Zelda game, like where we have traditional dungeons and items come back, but I don't want those to come back if it means that we're completely reverting to pre-Breath of the Wild. because the type of game that Breath of the Wild is, I don't feel like will function underneath that kind of structure. So it's got to find this balance to where it can still have those Zelda staples that we know and love, but still maintain this giant open world, seamless world that we know it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I can back
personally
that
wouldn't
up.
be mad. I personally wouldn't be mad if we only got one costume because I like the green costume.
Me
I
too.
wouldn't
Me
have cared.
too. But
I wouldn't have cared if Breath of the Wild just had one green tunic. I would have cared if it was just one blue tunic, but yeah, I'd still want all of the costumes because I think that was so fun to like have
Exactly.
like, oh, I need to go to the desert. Let me get my cute little Gerudo girly outfit on.
I was wore the Gerudo Vo clothes, but
Right.
unless I was in Gerudo Town, but still.
You know,
Like,
Do you
there's
not
such
have
unique
in that?
armor sets.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. I love them.
You got
Sometimes
the
it's
glow in the
overwhelming because you
dark
have to swap so
skeleton.
often, but
You got the wrestling outfit. You got the barbarian outfit.
Yes.
So
I'm
that
just saying like how
Luchador
I see
Link.
them.
so that wrestling
Luchador
out
Link
that
with the
wrestling
tingle hood.
I think they need to come up with more unique effects though, because a lot of the DLC items I know, like the Phantom armor and such, that gave you the same exact thing as the Barbarian armor.
Oh
Yeah,
my
way
like-
cooler.
god.
Oh, so
Except,
You
except the thing is, you
literally
can
just-
upgrade Barbarian. You can upgrade the Barbarian armor, so it's just better than
I-
all the And there's not a wide variety of effects. It's just you get a special attack bonus for this, or you get a night speed bonus for that. Or
I'm still
can't you come
waiting
up
for
with a
them to
unique
add in.
mechanic or something for your armor?
I'm
You
still
literally
waiting
just
for
made
them
me-
to add in a raincoat that lets you climb in the rain.
Yes.
That's
I
all
was
I've ever
literally-
thought of.
I was literally about to say, like, I would like to revoke my saying of enemy variety. I just want to climb in the rain. I cannot tell you how many times I have turned off the game because I was pissed off about the rain.
As long as
I was
it's
gonna
an
ask you earlier
option,
when you
because
said
that's
the thing
also
I
a
hate
fun
the
way.
most is that I'm like, are you sure? Do you hate it more than climbing in the rain? Are you sure?
Like,
worry,
no,
they'll let you.
it made me so angry. Like, there were so many times where I would be using like all my stamina, I'd be almost at the top. Suddenly, even though there's no clouds in the sky and the weather meter says it's all sunny, suddenly it somehow it starts raining and then I fall and I can't climb to the top and I fall to my death.
just
Oh
a
my gosh, it's
small
the worst.
splash of
Don't
water.
worry,
man.
they'll let
It's
you
the
climb in the
worst.
rain. They just won't let you use your paraglider in the rain anymore.
Fair trade off. Honestly, a fair trade off. I would rather fair trade off.
But then, what about the islands? You'll be stuck on a little island in the middle of the sky with no
I'm okay
paraglider
with
because of the
that. I'm
rain.
okay with that.
That's what the Loftwing amiibo's for.
True. God, if they do not put a Loftwing in this game, I will buy it.
Okay, they'll have to get another Loftwing amiibo because that's Zelda's Loftwing. We'll need to get one for the Crimson Loftwing.
Pretty.
Could you imagine a Crimson Loftwing amiibo where if it wasn't originally in the game, it could replace whatever your method of travel is?
That could be
use
cool.
the
Take my money.
Loftwing
Yeah.
amiibo to have?
Oh, man.
That thing would
proof
sell
that
for
your
like $50.
companion-
Actually, how would fast travel work in this game? Because there's no Sheikah technology now.
I
Zonai
am not
are
a big fan of the fast travel, to be honest. I know, like, obviously Breath of the Wild is so big, you kind of need it, but I was never a fan of warping in all the other previous Zelda games, especially like Twilight Princess, for example, because you just stop exploring the beautiful overworld at that point.
I played
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild, and one time I made a goal not to use any warp points, and it was really fun.
Yeah, it's
so
a lot
much
more fun
longer.
without it, to be honest.
But it was great. I liked it.
Don't
I think maybe
worry.
they should do it like Red Dead Redemption or Witcher, where you can fast travel, but only when you go to like a signpost at an established village.
No.
Mm.
They'll just introduce 120 Zonai shrines that you can teleport to with your Zonai arms.
You get dropped off by Tingle. Tingle's delivery service like a taxi. He carries you with his balloon. Nintendo, where's my paycheck?
As long
I
as you
approve of
can
this.
shoot
I
Tingle
approve.
with your bow, I'm cool with this idea.
Yeah, I think that's a fair trade-off. I'm okay with that.
Ooh, we're going to the sky. We got shot out of one of those giant cannons from Twilight Princess. That's our fast
How would
travel.
how would you guys feel if you were able to attack NPCs?
Well, we can, but we just can't,
No!
do
them.
do anything really bad to them, like kill them.
So are you talking like Ultima series bad, where you can kill the NPCs and get like negative karma?
I don't know if that's going to be happening anytime soon.
That
Nintendo
would
seems
most
a bit
likely would
hesitant.
not happen. But
I
yeah,
could
no,
not
Not
see.
in the Zelda
I
game.
could
It's
not
not.
see
It's
that in a
not
Zelda
GTA.
game.
It's
All
not fun.
Imagine Zelda
NPCs are
GTA.
available. You just burn down the Great
that
Deku
would
Tree.
that would most likely never happen ever. But it's just like some people. I don't know. I know a lot of people like to compare Breath of the Wild to Skyrim because of the obvious inspiration, but then they get upset when they can't kill all the Sheikah people, and I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Why would you want to kill the Sheikah people? They're so cute. This is the first game they're actually a group of people for once, and not just one really attractive lady.
Really attractive. Most of the time, Impa is super old. What are you talking about?
I like to think of Ocarina of Time
Shame.
Impa.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That and Skyward Sword are the exceptions. I'm thinking of like Impaz, what the Oracle series,
Oracle
The original.
Oracle
2.
series. The Oracle series Impa would be so nice. She is a mom. I love her. She would give the best hugs and make so much cool
she's
soup.
she's more of a grandma, but yeah.
Yeah. I love Impa. Give her the respect she deserves.
Who's next, by the way?
Oh.
I'm
Oh.
forgetting.
That would be Zeldom.
Oh, okay.
Oh man, it's hard to pick one. You guys took all the good ones already at this point.
I know Tingle's
I
delivery
agree
service
with
is good.
just about everything you guys said. Those are all very valid. Now you guys got me worrying about the game more than I should be. But my one thing I didn't really hear come up was Zelda. The fact that she falls at the very beginning of the trailer. I was hoping at least we would get some kind of story before the game starts, where you have some cutscenes. Because in Breath of the Wild, it just starts off where wake up, Link, you're sleeping, and then you get all the cutscenes as you go through play the game in random spots. You just go through and see a glowing spot on the ground, you click on it, and then you get a few minute long cutscene. I do not want that. If Breath of the Wild 2 does the same exact thing like that, I'm going to be very, very mad.
Like you just wake up.
I was really hoping to see Link and Zelda interacting with each other more often, kind of like Age of Calamity style cutscenes, where you play a level and then you get the scene. It is more of the linear formula. But like, say we get our traditional dungeons back. So you finish a dungeon, you walk out, and kind of like in the DLC, where after you complete the Champion's Ballad, there's a cutscene. Something like that. So you walk out of the dungeon and you see like some clip where you cut back to the castle and you see Ganondorf scheming, talking to himself, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then go back to the opening of the game. You see Link and Zelda exploring that cavern, kind of like in the initial teaser. And then so you maybe have 5 minutes leading up to the game before that. And if Zelda's separated for the rest of the game, I really don't want that to happen for the entire game. But so be it. As long as we get some interaction and she's actually part of the story.
I hope Zelda is more part of the story. I do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have already gotten this idea, like obviously before the last trailer, that Zelda might be playable. I definitely thought she could be. I don't think that as much now.
Neither do I.
But I really do hope that she's important to the story.
Yeah, I'm hoping more. I would be very, very surprised if she is like I wouldn't say even playable, but I just want her to be part of the story. You know,
I want there to be a story.
A Skyward Sword style would be fine with me, where it's you're on a quest to like save her again. Where she's off doing her own thing. She is working behind the scenes, like because in Skyward Sword she's not damsel in distress necessarily. She was knocked out of the sky just like Link was. But both Link and Zelda had their own quest to do. She had to go purify herself and regain her memories as the goddess Hylia.
Yeah.
And she had to go do her own quest where then she sealed herself away. She had a very important role. She was not the damsel in distress like Princess Peach every single Mario game. And I'm hoping Zelda has some role like that where as you're going through the game without her by your side, you'll maybe after you do some dungeons or at some point in the story, you'll reunite with her and then something else happens and you have to separate again to go do your own separate quest. Something like that. I just feel like throwing her down, if she's just thrown down a pit and you have to go save her in Hyrule Castle again, I'm gonna be pretty upset.
Yeah.
Zelda's time out in the pit.
Yep.
So if you get
down
one
in the
Zelda
pit.
amiibo, it unlocks fast travel. If you get 2 Zelda amiibos, she becomes a playable second character for co-op.
Well, good job. I've got two pre-ordered by accident.
So you have me concerned, Zeldom, now, because it could very easily be like the game opens up with Link waking up with the Zonai arm grafted to him or whatever, and then he has to wander around and start finding memories that tell us the backstory. Inevitably, like I could
He's so mad.
easily see them doing that again. And I don't want
Yeah,
that.
'cause
I would.
he
be
already has amnesia. Don't
pretty
give him
angry.
double amnesia. That would make no sense.
I would actually be pretty angry if they did that, because
Yeah.
I have a really big problem with Breath of the Wild story. I've said it before. It's not a story. We're just tying up loose ends. All of the main important, cool parts of the story happened in the memories. If they do that again, I will be actually pretty upset.
I don't have an issue with Breath of the Wild story. It's the storytelling that I have the issue with.
Yeah. Like, the story's good. Like, how it happens, like, the champions, Calamity Ganon, that's all good. How it's told,
and then, like, I loved Age of Calamity's storytelling was so much better than Breath of the Wild, but the story wasn't quite what we were hoping for.
Yeah.
That wasn't bad, and I loved it. I loved a lot of the
but-
cutscenes regardless, but it still wasn't what we had hoped for.
But that
Yeah.
adorable little egg robot solves all the
I-
problems.
Jericho!
Egg Boy. Speaking of which, kind of going back to the theories, do we think there's going to be any Age of Calamity references in the sequel?
So
I hope not, because it will get confusing.
So I personally think not, and that's because I'm assuming that we've played Age of Calamity here. I'm
Yes.
assuming the time travel shenanigans we see in Age of Calamity pulls the future champions from yet another alternate timeline, like a bad progression from where they were when Terrico pulled them. So they're not
Hang on,
actually.
I am writing this down.
I did a video about it that I'll link you to it if you want. But it's essentially the idea that there's 3 timelines presented in Age of Calamity. There's the Breath of the Wild one, right? And Terrico jumps back in time from there. Then that creates another fork up until the point where where it pulls future champions, but it pulls from forward at that bad future because time's already been altered, pulling those ones back, which splits into a third timeline, what I call futures A, B, and C. But I don't want to go too heavily into that. You could check out my video if you want, of course.
I both love and hate Zelda time travel.
It's
I
It's
want
so
to actually be like a first
complicated.
Hyrule, where there's like a nexus sort of dimension that kind of connects to all of them at once. If there's anything I want made canon, it's Linkle. That's it.
I'm perfectly okay with that as long as they give her a different name. I just can't stand the name Linkle.
Make the character of Linkle as Aril.
Yes, I was about to
Yeah,
say that.
I'm okay with that. Look, pretty much anything besides Linkle, I'm okay with.
I do like, though, that Linkle wasn't just female Link and explained as female Link. She is her own character.
Yeah, me too.
Who was just brought up on the Legends of the Hero, which I'm like, hell yeah, pretty much every kid in Hyrule is going to be called Link if they grew up on that stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of the first the first Hyrule Warriors, I thought it was really interesting that there was a character who could see all the different time branches. I think it's a bit problematic, but it's a neat concept.
It's Stanley. He's a Time Lord. He does it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, actually, that does explain everything.
You're welcome.
All right, so I have concluded the questions I laid out. If we want to talk some more, that's fine. But otherwise, we can go if you guys want to. It's coming up
We've
on
almost
2
gone
hours.
2 hours instead of the 1 hour, so.
Yeah, but to be fair, we did double the amount of panelists that we had originally, too.
That is true.
Ah, true. Started with 4.
Yeah, I got to leave soon-ish.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us.
So just depending. Yeah.